Yeah, I know. This picture. Again. We've seen it thousands of times, it seems, across numerous articles and videos regarding the gripping bombshell that is Titanic's coal bunker fire. Several channels have also done videos debunking the theory that this fire contributed to Titanic's sinking, and they all largely agree that had minimal impact on it. I agree with them, and what kind of channel would I be if I didn't throw my 2 cents in on the subject? Now, I'm not going to go into the technical aspects of all this, mainly because I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to engineering, and I don't want to subject all of you to my ignorance, unless you really want to hear me say things like, this is the part that goes up and down and round, right? And this is the thing that dings. Cool, got it. Yeah, nobody needs that. What I will talk about, and it's something I've noticed doesn't really get talked about a lot in those other debunking videos, is the supposed smudge or scorch mark itself. People have focused on what was potentially happening on the inside of the ship. I thought it might be a good idea to take a look at what was happening on the outside. Or in this case, wasn't happening. I actually found a pretty interesting photograph that I'll get into a little bit later. You'll definitely want to see it. As for the fire in the coal bunker itself, it was a pretty common occurrence for ships at the time, and it actually wasn't that bad, all things considered. It was probably more of a smoldering burn rather than an open flame. Think of a charcoal barbecue grill after it's been going for a while. The fire is thought to have started in Boiler Room 6 sometime on April 10th, the day Titanic left Southampton. Firemen Frederick Barrett and Charles Hendrickson worked daily to extinguish the fire by removing the unaffected coal to another bunker and then spraying down the rest with water. It was finally put out around Saturday, April 13th. The result, as they testified at an inquiry after the sinking, was a slight deformation of the steel bulkhead within the coal bunker, which they slapped some oil on and went on their way. They made no mention of any damage to the steel of the hull, just to the bulkhead. When people fall down this rabbit hole of a theory, they tend to ignore a glaring fact of what happens to steel or iron when it is exposed to fire. Steel doesn't burn. It can be completely surrounded by a raging inferno, but the steel itself will not catch fire, and that's because it's a non-combustible material. The carbon within the steel, which is added to give it strength, will burn and break down, and this is why steel will deform and lose its structural integrity when exposed to fire or high temperatures. Steel also doesn't scorch when exposed to flame, it oxidizes or rusts. If the steel is painted, like Titanic's hull was, the paint will bubble, peel, and flake off to expose the bare, rusted steel beneath. So this supposed burn mark, if real, would probably have looked something like this. Or, for a more historical example, here's debris recovered from the World Trade Center after September 11th. So if the fire in Titanic's coal bunker had been bad enough to leave damage this large on the outside of her hull, onlookers wouldn't have seen a giant black scorch mark. They would have seen a glaring scar of ugly, ruined paintwork and rusted steel. It wouldn't have been a good look for a brand new liner about to head out on her maiden voyage, and people would have definitely noticed. The Board of Trade official in charge of her final inspection before departure would have certainly noticed, and I highly doubt he would have let her go anywhere with that amount of visible damage. Not to mention that this smudge isn't even located where Boiler Room 6 is. It's too far forward and looks to be under the forward well deck, where cargo is stored. And if the cargo hold, full of combustible, flammable materials, was on fire, Titanic would have definitely had a much larger problem on her hands than ice on the course ahead of her. And people probably would have been complaining about the smoke, I would assume. For the photograph itself, we can pinpoint the day it was taken to April 2nd, 1912, which was the day Titanic had her sea trials in Belfast. So 8 days before the fire was even said to have started. And as with any momentous occasion, several photographs of Titanic's trials were taken, and from different angles. There's this famous one. There's this one. And there's this one. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's look at those last two again, shall we? And now side by side. How about a little bit closer? Huh. There appears to be something missing from this one. Fancy that.